Being a kid today is incredibly challenging. All of the things that we know to be true, things like identity, are really challenged a lot by this culture. Even things like heroes and what heroes stand for and what kind of defines a hero. Well, today in the Celebrate Kids podcast, in our daily segment, Facing the Dark, we're going to explore some kind of modern ideas, some things that have been pushed in culture that are challenging young people and their sense of gravity. And this is especially true as we look at young women and the reality of what's being foisted upon them. And so today in the Celebrate Kids podcast, in our daily segment, Facing the Dark, Dr. Kathy is going to go at this topic head on and give parents some insight into how we can encourage and guide our kids. So let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Cook.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So Dr. Kathy, Carrie Gress from Newsweek wrote recently, quote, "Feminism has rewritten the fairy tale script. No longer is envy the downfall of women, but now it's a badge of honor." She goes on to say that for over 50 years, women have been clamoring to make themselves into men, mentally, and now they're doing it biologically. But in this scramble, they've kind of fretted away what it actually means to be a woman. She says, quote, "The fruits of envy haven't just targeted men, but also children, the needy, demanding upstarts, who we are told are the real obstacle to our happiness. Following the pattern of manhood, the seed has been deeply planted that no woman should have to mother another. Mothering sets us back. Mothering enslaves us. This is the pro-choice fairy tale, complete with a parade of victimized women in red robes and white bonnets, reminding us how awful and enslaving motherhood is," end quote. So Dr. Kathy, that's kind of an intense quote. And I have to say, you're a woman. I'm not going to kind of mince words here. And I've never dreamt about being a woman. I don't know what it is about the culture that kind of pushes women to kind of desire and imagine what it would be like to be a man. How should parents kind of handle this cultural push that shoves into the face of young women and young girls this idea that somehow they should be gauged by how much like men or what kind of status they can achieve as men? It kind of drives them to be that way. How should parents handle that?
Oh my goodness, Wayne, this is so hard. What comes to mind is all of the news reports about men who have tried to transition to become women, and then they win the swim meet and they win the track competition. We got to talk about those situations. And then we've got to remember that that's not the only place where that assumption is built in, that men have the power and men have the victory and men are stronger and men are brighter. It's when I earned my PhD at 28 years old. And that's pretty young to earn a PhD. I was driven by a career goal, but it was especially young for a woman. And I was told, no man is going to find you attractive. I'm like, I'm not going to be attracted to a man who doesn't want an intelligent woman. Like, leave me alone. Even way back then, the things that were said about how my future was going to be changed by the fact that I was driven and I loved learning and I had a career goal that, I felt like I was supposed to aspire to because I felt like I had been created to do that. It just angers me. And are our women celebrating being women? Are our women celebrating being moms? What do our children hear us talk about? Are we always tired? Are we always anxious? Are we always overworked? Is there never enough money? Is the mess always too messy? What do they hear us talk about? I just could go on and on. I would love for women to be content as moms. I know that in some cases, part of their contentment comes from outside of that. I understand that. Not opposed to women who work outside of the home and moms who do that. But I would hope that we wouldn't elevate that to the extent that our children will feel less than or replaced by a career. And I would hope that no woman feels forced into doing that by a man who says, you have to provide more. Good heavens, she's provided your children for you. Can you find a way to make it work? You and your wife have, you've sacrificed to make things work for your large family. And I think others can do it as well and would find it really fulfilling if they would give it a chance.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Kathy. And I want to ask you this because this kind of ends up spinning into some of these conversations. And that's this idea that kind of Carrie Gress highlights that envy is kind of something that we should maybe strive for, that we're kind of encouraged to strive for and to use it to kind of better good. I mean, there's a lot of films that have been made recently that really kind of paint heroes and villains almost with a similar brush and kind of highlight the fact that both of them call on some of the darkest ideas that they're kind of wrestling with. And that through the power of, maybe taming envy and gossip, and I would even say like coveting and lying, that somehow our heroes in these movies or these different cultural icons can kind of get ahead in life. We've had presidential candidates that I would say are kind of using what I would probably call these dark virtues. I don't even know if they're virtues. They're just like things that exist, right?
The
that are opposite of a virtue. Yeah. But they use envy and gossip and lying and cheating and whatever to get ahead in life. And somehow we kind of get behind them and celebrate that. How can we build a stronger sense of identity in the light of these moments of culture that kind of tell us to use envy or to use cheating or to use coveting to get ahead in life?
I don't know how to answer your question. What I'll say is that it's disgusting to me that anybody would want to celebrate things like envy. That's inappropriate. The research is very clear that children who do not feel safe in their own skin, children who do not feel that they can be successful in the way that they've been created, are at great risk for suicide and depression, anxiety, and cutting and alcohol and drugs and the dropout rate and all of that, because they've been made to feel less than. And that happens when they compare. It happens when they envy the neighbor kid and the taller kid and the shorter kid and the faster kid. It's reality. So how do we talk to our kids about why they are who they are? Do we give them a vision for their identity and their purpose? Do we help them understand that comparison is the thief of joy? Many, many people have said that. And I think it's true. So when our kids come home, as an example, when a kid comes home from school or you come home from a day and you ask your homeschool kids about school, don't say, how did the other kids do? Your kid comes home and you empty the backpack and your child earned a 96, your child earned an 82. As soon as you say, how did the other kids do? You set your kid up to feel less than, because now it's a comparison. No, how does that 82 rest with you for that son of yours? How is that 96 for your daughter? And then I think the question is, are you pleased with the 82? Well, no, Dad, I forgot there was a quiz and it's really disappointed because I was doing really well in class. I enjoyed the topic, but I sure didn't look like I did. And now the teacher has a, negative impression of me, and I'm going to have to build back up the trust that she has for me. So I've made sure to calendar my quizzes now in green in my notebook so that I see them when I turn the page, because I don't want that to happen again. Like, what kind of conversations are we having? This really concerns me. And it is why I wrote a whole book on character. And what I say in my new book, comes out in November, is our children need to have a positive identity, a complete identity, a consistent identity, a automatic identity, and a biblical identity. We can do it.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I think those are really important things to think through. I'm really looking forward to seeing your book on character come out, because I think it's almost like one of those, like I would maybe call it like a book on gravity. I don't know if you saw it like this, but these are the real things in the world, right? We know this to be true, but there's so many things in society that I think are kind of being pushed to the limits of reality. Things that for you and I, it was probably like, the role of marriage or the role of the church in our lives, and now marriage and kind of the church have been worked to be undone and kind of redefined. It might be kind of, and we've seen things like sexuality and identity be challenged, but now we're seeing it actually more for our kids beyond kind of sexuality and identity to actually being pushing them to want to change physical realities to align with whatever they think reality is. What encouragement would you give for parents knowing that so much of this just seems, and I mean, really it is illogical. We're told it's almost like our kids are being told that they can kind of fly off the cliff, that they should go and take that leap. And while we look at that, some may survive, but many won't. How would you encourage parents knowing that many of their kids are being yelled at to defy gravity and jump off the cliff?
I would say to any parent, separate your children from those people, because that's just so unwise. Most little boys and maybe some girls for a season only will sleep in their Superman PJs. And they come with a little cape and they stand on their bed and, Daddy, I'm going to fly. and they jump into daddy's arms, and then daddy flies around the bedroom with him, and little boy feels like he's flying. You would never, when they're 3, allow them to jump off of a double bunk bed because he's wearing a cape and he thinks he's Superman. No, you would hurt yourself. We're not going to do that. And sometimes in my workshops, I have parents practice saying no. Everybody say no. Everybody say it again. Say it again. How does it make you feel to say it? It's a word in your vocabulary. And I just think, we can't let the culture raise our kids. Our wisdom, which I hope comes from God, should be raising our kids. And we need to handle that they're disappointed in our decision. We need to be able to be mature enough to handle that they don't like us in the moment. And we look at them and they go, I don't really care that you don't like me right now. I'm glad you're going to be alive tomorrow. So, and again, I'm not saying that that's a really easy conversation to have. But you know what I think, Wayne? I think it starts when they're 3. I think if you're smart when they're 3 and you don't let them jump off of the top of the bunk bed, they're going to trust you to know wisdom when they're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. If you're not there when they're little and you let them experiment and learn the hard way, and some kids do need to learn the hard way. Now, don't let them jump off and break an ankle. But I understand that sometimes you have to suffer the consequences of their foolishness. And I understand that. But in general terms, I think that we better be there, and we better be their boundaries, because they're not wise enough or mature enough or haven't lived enough life to know what the boundaries ought to be, but we should know what they are. And I think those are keys to some of what we're talking about.
Sometimes when Dr. Kathy closes kind of her thoughts here, I just feel like it's kind of a final exhortation, kind of we're going out into the day, and she's giving us kind of one last charge of some things to keep in mind. It's something that the writer of Hebrews also does in Hebrews chapter 13. And today I want to draw attention to Hebrews 13, verse 6. And this is what's written. So we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? Hebrews 13:6 comes in context of Hebrews 13:1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. It's a passage of scripture where the writer's kind of exhorting the church to remember the ways that God is calling them to live out their faith, to remember what marriage is, to remember to keep their lives free from the love of false ideas and ideals, and also to remember that the Lord will not leave them nor forsake them. And all of this leads to this verse in chapter 13:6, where it says, so we can say with confidence that the Lord's our helper, and that we don't need to be afraid. And I think today, in light of all of the tumult, if we can call it that, all of the noise that's going on, especially for our kids, we can say with confidence that the Lord is our helper. And as we walk through these times with our kids, we do it with the confidence not of ourselves or for being able to answer their questions or for being able to carry their confusion. We do it with confidence in the Lord, that the Lord is our helper. And the Lord is the one who our confidence lies in. And I think that as parents, if we can hold tightly to that it can be a bright light that shines and cuts through the darkness of the questions and confusions and all of the things that our students and kids are dealing with. And I hope that's an encouragement for you. And I hope this podcast is an encouragement for you. If it is, shoot us a quick note. Let us know what you're thinking or what's kind of going on in your world. We'd love to pray for you and maybe even to talk about some of the things that you're wrestling with. You can just send me a quick email on this. My name's Wayne. You can send it to wayne@ignitethefamily.com. That's WAYNE@ignitethefamily.com. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Cook, I'm really thankful that you join us here every day. And I just want to let you know that I'm looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.